So, according to global demand, if you're going to prioritize the sectors in industrial technology, the high demand is in the energy sector, which is of course for biofuels, due to the rising price of oil, biopolymers. Then you have industrial supplies, food and beverage, cosme and nutraceuticals, pulp and paper, textile and leather, fertilizers and feeds. And then lastly, in environmental testing and diagnostics and environmental treatments. If we prioritize this for export, in terms of the Philippine market, I would prioritize it with industrial supplies first, energy second, and environmental as a third. And my basis for prioritizing it this way is, of course, several factors. We're looking at markets which are large, growing, and addressable. Basically, we have the existing supplies and skills to address these markets. And the ability to pay of players in that target market is there. We're also looking at the quality of evidence of demand. Because clearly, we don't want to make any policy decisions from something we found on Google. There's also the concept of low-hanging fruit. What is the quickest way for us to make money in this industry based on our capability, expertise, and manpower? And we're hoping that the local market is underserved or unserved. So we want to provide competitive advantage to existing Philippine firms with, of course, the ability to pay in terms of licenses and royalties for the technologies that DOST or our universities may be cranking out. If we look at the field of industrial supplies, the global enzyme market is about 4.67 billion, and we're projecting it will grow 6.6% annually through 2012. That's without the next 5 years. The food and beverage sector is going to be the largest growth segment, primarily because of the wellness trend. Pulp and paper and textile and leather, there are very few local companies here, but there are very good export opportunities to China and India. If we find among our biodiversity some enzyme that could help in bleaching, for example, or delignifying trees, because trees have a very tough component called lignin, which basically takes up 60% of the process and uses up so much of your resources and enzymes. You pay a lot for the enzymes to delignify wood before you can turn it into pulp. So the enzymes that cleave carbohydrates and proteins would be the ones that are still which would be most widely used. Carbohydrates such as amylase for biodiesel and bioethanol, for example. And if you look at the market for enzymes, that $4.67 billion market, the biggest players, Novozymes of Denmark. The second is Danisco, which is a German company which recently merged with a biotech company called Genencor. DSM is Dutch, BASF is also German, and we have 5% of captive producers like Henkel and Kao, which create its own enzymes but use them also. And if you look at the Novozymes annual report, they expect certain segments to grow faster within the enzyme market. Again, food will be growing fastest. They project a 10 to 15% growth in enzymes for baking, brewing, and food specialties. 15% growth, of course, because of the fuel business in technical enzymes. And a 5 to 10% growth in feed enzymes. This is because we would like the entire value chain of food and beverages to be clean or non-chemical. So you'd be looking at biologically safe pesticides, herbicides, feeds, and of course detergent and microorganisms. These are going to be growing also, but at a much slower rate, I think, than the others. We project, the industry experts project that before we used to fortify our food and beverages, vitamin A and B in milk, iodine in salt, and now we're doing calcium for anti-osteoporosis, folic acid enrichment in white bread. Of course, we have many products from whole grain and soy, just soy milk. We're also looking at fiber, sterols, and stanols. But what we're going to see in the future is, let's say if you have diabetes, just take this pill, because this will treat your diabetes. This is a nutritional supplement for diabetes. It will lower your blood sugar, and it might be a combination of ampalaya, panaba, and many other things. It would be a cocktail of sorts instead of just one element of that. Cinnamon there also, maybe dark chocolate, good for the taste, and since it's also good for your heart. So you're looking at tailored foods. And just to differentiate, because you see a lot of press now about natural ingredients, functional food, nutraceuticals, food additives, food supplements. These are the official definitions, and I know they're kind of small, but to go over them very quickly, a functional food is a food. Basically, please eat bananas, for example, if you have a stomach problem, because that's better than taking a pill of Imodium. Nutraceuticals are actually bear closer resemblance to drugs. So they're food that's actually healthy for you, but they're usually sold in medicinal forms like capsules. This is the Canada definition. Sometimes what we call nutraceuticals is classified in the EU and FDA as a food supplement, which is why you see concentrated sources of nutrients, which you might see at Healthy Options, for example, or GNC stores in the malls. And food additives, on the other hand, are for the industrial processing of foods, and these are substances that don't naturally occur in foods, which would be like folic acid. So these are very different, and it's a little tricky to get your product approved by the FDA, because if it has too much medical evidence backing it, they'll think you tested it so much that therefore they should classify it as a pharmaceutical. If it has no scientific evidence, they're probably going to classify it as a botanical or a food supplement. So it really depends. You can't do too much testing. We looked at secondary data from the nutraceutical and ingredient firms, natural ingredient firms, and we noticed that they were focusing primarily on cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity, digestive problems, and bone problems such as osteoporosis. There is now an emerging trend in anti-arthritis and anti-Alzheimer's, anti-Parkinson's health food additives. The cosmeceutical market, which are cosmetics that are actually healthy for you, would be growing at 8.1% per annum to 2010. And interestingly enough, it's the ingredients that will outpace the products. So there'll be more ingredients, there'll be more market for ingredients than the products.